Whispers in the water. The man had been out on the water for hours, but his luck wasn't with him today. He had cast his line time and time again, but not a single fish had taken the bait. To make matters worse, one of his fishing lines had snapped, leaving him with limited resources. As if the bad luck wasn't enough, he suddenly realized that he had forgotten to pack his favorite snack. The small inconvenience was enough to ruffle his feathers and put a damper on his day. As he sat in his boat, staring out at the seemingly endless expanse of water, he started to hear strange sounds. The soft lapping of the waves was now accompanied by a low, eerie hum that seemed to be coming from below the surface. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had been gnawing at him since he set out on the trip. He was no stranger to the waters of the bay, but today was different. The once calm and serene environment now felt foreign and hostile. He cast his line once more, but his mind was somewhere else, focused on the strange sounds and growing sense of dread that he was feeling. The man's nerves were frayed, and he was desperate for something to calm his racing thoughts. He decided to reach into his ice chest for another beer. As he took a sip, the sweet singing began once again, but this time it was even more hauntingly beautiful. He searched the waters around him, trying to locate the source of the sound, but he saw nothing. And then, as he gazed into the depths of the bay, he saw her. A beautiful woman was swimming in the water, her long hair flowing behind her like seaweed in the currents. She was singing the lullabies, and her voice was like nothing he had ever heard before. The fisherman was completely captivated by her beauty, unable to look away. How had she gotten there, miles from the shore? He didn't know, and at the moment he didn't care. All he knew was that he needed to get closer to her, to bask in the beauty of her voice and her form. But as he reached for the oars to row closer, the singing suddenly stopped, and the woman was gone. The fisherman was left alone in his boat once again, confused and bewildered by what he had just seen. The man decided that maybe it was best if he didn't have any more to drink. He was feeling disoriented, and the strange singing was starting to unnerve him. He made the decision to call it a day and start rowing back towards the shore. But just as he was about to pick up the oars, the singing began again. This time, it was even more haunting and beautiful. He looked around the waters surrounding his boat, but there was no sign of the woman. Just as he was starting to lose hope of ever seeing her again, she appeared at the edge of his boat. She was even more beautiful than he had imagined, and her smile was entrancing. The fisherman was rooted to the spot, unable to move or speak. He tried to talk to her, but she simply stood there smiling, as if she knew something that he didn't. As he gazed into her eyes, he felt a strange pull towards her, as if she was luring him into the depths of the bay. He was caught in her spell, completely under her control. And then, as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone, leaving the fisherman alone in his boat once again. He would never forget the way she had captivated him, or the haunting beauty of her voice and smile. From that moment on, his life would never be the same. Snapping out of his trance, the fisherman suddenly realized what was happening. He had heard tales of the mythical creatures of the water since he was a child, but he had always been skeptical, thinking of them just as children's stories. But now, as he gazed out in the calm and serene bay, he couldn't deny the possibility that they might be true. He quickly guided his boat to the dock and tied it up, his heart pounding with fear and excitement. He stepped out of the boat and looked out over the water, waiting to see if the beautiful woman would appear once more. But there was nothing, only the calm and peaceful bay. He stood there for a moment, taking deep breaths and trying to calm his racing heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had just encountered something truly magical and otherworldly. From that day on, the fisherman was never able to sleep well again. The haunting lullaby that the beautiful woman sang echoed in his mind, driving him into madness. He became obsessed with finding the woman, searching the open waters for any sign of her, but she never showed up again. She only haunted his dreams, driving him further into his madness. As time passed, the townsfolk in his fishing village began to worry about the fisherman. They noticed his strange behavior, the dark circles under his eyes, and his constant muttering about a curse of the sea. They tried to talk to him, to help him, but he was beyond their reach. The fisherman's once proud and sturdy boat was now worn and weathered, as if it was reflecting the state of its owner. He would spend hours on end staring out at the water, searching for any sign of the woman who had captivated him. Eventually, the townsfolk began to whisper that the fisherman was cursed by the sea, and they feared for his sanity, and eventually, he was no longer seen on the waters of the bay. Years passed, and the fisherman's boat was found drifting on the bay, abandoned and empty. No one ever found out what happened to the fisherman, but the townsfolk whispered that he had finally succumbed to the curse of the sea, driven mad by his obsession with the beautiful siren who had sung him to his death. And so, the legend of the fisherman and the siren lived on, a haunting reminder of the dangers that lurked in the depths of the bay.